Right now, as you're watching this, something is happening in our solar system that challenges everything we thought we knew about cosmic visitors and government transparency. On July 1st, 2025, NASA's Atlas Telescope Array discovered what they initially called just another space rock. But within days, as the orbital calculations came in, astronomers realized they were dealing with something unprecedented. This wasn't just any asteroid or comet. This was 3I Atlas, only the third confirmed interstellar visitor in human history, carrying secrets that have left Harvard's top astrophysicist questioning whether we're dealing with natural phenomena or something far more deliberate. What makes this story truly unsettling isn't just the object itself. It's the pattern of government silence, the statistical impossibilities, and the growing list of anomalies that seem to defy every natural explanation scientists can offer. When one of Harvard's most respected researchers assigns a 30 to 40% probability that this object doesn't have a fully natural origin, we need to pay attention. When that same researcher connects this visitor to the famous WOW signal from 1977, the stakes become even higher. Stay with me through this investigation, because what I'm about to reveal will fundamentally change how you view our place in the cosmos and the forces that may be orchestrating events far beyond our understanding. By the end of this video, you'll understand why 3I Atlas represents more than just a cosmic curiosity. You'll see how it fits into a larger pattern of control and deception that reaches the highest levels of government and scientific institutions. But first, let me establish the credibility of what we're dealing with here. This isn't some fringe theory cooked up in internet forums. Dr. Avi Loeb, the Harvard astrophysicist leading this investigation, chairs the Department of Astronomy at one of the world's most prestigious universities. He's published over 800 scientific papers and serves on numerous advisory boards for government agencies. When someone with his credentials starts questioning the official narrative about interstellar visitors, we should listen very carefully. Let's start with what we know for certain about 3I Atlas. This object was discovered entering our solar system at an incredible distance of 4.5 astronomical units from the Sun, 670 million kilometers away. That's roughly well beyond Mars's orbit. Its trajectory immediately marked it as something special. Unlike asteroids and comets that belong to our solar system, 3I Atlas follows what scientists call a hyperbolic orbit. This means it's traveling so fast that our sun's gravity cannot capture it permanently. It's just passing through, carrying more than enough velocity to escape back into the depths of interstellar space. The numbers alone are staggering. This visitor is racing through our solar system at 58 kilometers per second relative to the Sun. To put that in perspective, that's over 200,000 kilometers per hour. At those speeds, 3I Atlas could travel from Earth to the Moon in less than 2 hours. But speed isn't the only remarkable characteristic. Size estimates suggest we're dealing with a massive object, potentially 5 kilometers in diameter and weighing over 33 billion tons. Now here's where things start getting strange. Dr. Loeb has identified what he calls 7 distinct anomalies about 3I Atlas, each one challenging the conventional explanation that this is simply a natural comet from another star system. Let me walk you through these anomalies, because understanding them is crucial to grasping the larger implications of what we're witnessing. Anomaly number 1 involves the object's size and discovery sequence. According to our understanding of interstellar object populations, smaller visitors should be far more common than larger ones. We should have discovered thousands of smaller interstellar rocks before finding something as massive as 3I Atlas. Yet this giant appeared as only our third confirmed interstellar visitor. The statistical probability of this sequence is so low that it suggests either our models of interstellar populations are fundamentally wrong, or we're dealing with something that doesn't follow natural distribution patterns. Anomaly number 2 centers on the object's orbital inclination. When astronomers calculated 3I Atlas trajectory, they discovered it travels in a plane inclined just 5 degrees, relative to our solar system's ecliptic. This is the imaginary flat disk where most planets orbit the Sun. For a random visitor from interstellar space, the probability of arriving with such a perfectly aligned trajectory is only 0.005%. That's 5 chances in 100,000. To understand how remarkable this is, consider that the 2 previous interstellar visitors, Oumuamua and Borisov, arrived with inclinations of 123 and 44 degrees, respectively. They came in at steep angles, exactly as we'd expect from random cosmic wanderers. But 3I Atlas seems to have specifically chosen a path that keeps it aligned with our solar system's main plane of activity. This alignment allows it to make close approaches to multiple planets during its passage. It swept near Venus, approached Mars within 30 million kilometers, and will continue toward encounters with Jupiter's gravitational sphere. The probability of a random interstellar object naturally following such a comprehensive planetary tour is less than 0.005%. Anomaly number 3 involves the object's optical properties. When astronomers studied light reflected from 3I Atlas, they discovered polarization characteristics unlike any known comet. The polarization patterns suggest a surface that's neither purely icy like typical comets, nor purely rocky like asteroids. Instead, the data points towards something with more complex, possibly metallic properties. This finding becomes even more intriguing when combined with observations showing the object is unusually rich in carbon, giving it spectroscopic signatures that don't match our models of how comets form around other stars. The 4th anomaly connects 3I Atlas to one of astronomy's greatest mysteries. The object's inbound direction aligns within 9 degrees of the source region of the famous WOW signal. On August 15, 1977, the Big Ear radio telescope at Ohio State University detected a powerful 72-second radio transmission from the direction of the Sagittarius constellation. The signal was so strong and unusual that astronomer Jerry Amon wrote "Wow" on the printout, giving the event its name. Despite decades of searching, that signal has never been detected again or satisfactorily explained. The probability of 3I Atlas randomly arriving from the same general direction as the WOW signal is just 0.6%. This correlation raises profound questions about whether these 2 events might be connected across nearly 5 decades of time. Could 3I Atlas have been responsible for transmitting the WOW signal during a previous passage through our galactic neighborhood? Or might both events originate from the same source civilization, conducting long-term observations of our solar system? Anomaly number 5 becomes apparent when examining the object's activity patterns. Unlike typical comets that develop prominent tails as they approach the Sun, 3I Atlas has shown unusual behavior. High-resolution Hubble Space Telescope images reveal only a fuzzy glow extending toward the Sun, rather than the expected tail streaming away from our star. This suggests the object isn't shedding dust particles in the manner we'd expect from natural sublimation of ice. Instead, its emission patterns hint at more controlled or artificial processes governing its interaction with solar radiation. The 6th anomaly involves timing that seems almost too convenient to be coincidental. 3I Atlas made its closest approach to Mars on October 3, 2025, just as the United States government entered a shutdown that furloughed over 15,000 NASA employees. This timing meant that crucial observations during the object's most important scientific phase occurred precisely when the agency responsible for studying it was operating with minimal staff. NASA's public communications went dark, leaving the scientific community and general public without official updates during the most critical period of the encounter. The 7th, and perhaps most unsettling anomaly, lies in the institutional response to 3I Atlas. Despite Dr. Loeb's detailed analysis and the accumulating evidence of unusual characteristics, the scientific establishment has largely dismissed concerns about the object's potential artificial nature. NASA officials continue to characterize 3I Atlas as an ordinary comet, even as the observational data challenges that explanation. This pattern of dismissal mirrors the treatment of previous anomalous objects like Oumuamua, where unusual acceleration and other properties were explained away rather than thoroughly investigated. What makes this response particularly troubling is the precedent established by Interstellar Meteor 1, or IM-1. This object crashed into the Pacific Ocean in 2014, but data from the impact remained classified by US government spy satellites for years. Only through Dr. Loeb's persistent efforts was the object's interstellar origin confirmed. When fragments were finally recovered from the ocean floor, they revealed materials tougher than any space rock previously studied by NASA. The government's initial secrecy around IM-1 raises serious questions about transparency regarding other anomalous visitors. The pattern emerging around 3I Atlas suggests we're witnessing more than just scientific caution or bureaucratic delays. The combination of statistical impossibilities, unusual physical properties, and institutional silence points towards something far more significant than a random comet from another star system. When we examine these anomalies collectively, they paint a picture of an object that seems designed rather than naturally formed, following a trajectory that appears planned rather than randomly determined. But understanding 3I Atlas requires us to think beyond individual anomalies. We need to consider what this object represents in the broader context of humanity's relationship with potential non-human intelligences and the systems of control that govern how such information reaches the public. The implications extend far beyond astronomy into questions of disclosure, democratic transparency, and our species' readiness to confront realities that challenge our fundamental assumptions about our place in the universe. The deeper we dig into the 3I Atlas situation, the more we discover a web of connections that extends far beyond a single interstellar visitor. What we're really looking at is a systematic pattern of information control that has been operating for decades, using cosmic events as cover for activities that the public is never meant to understand. Consider the timing of recent events. Just as 3I Atlas was making its approach toward Mars, social media platforms began implementing new restrictions on discussions about unidentified aerial phenomena. Major tech companies rolled out updated community guidelines that specifically target content questioning official explanations of cosmic anomalies. This isn't coincidence. This is coordination. The Atlas Network, a powerful libertarian organization founded in 1981, operates nearly 600 affiliated groups across more than 100 countries. While most people have never heard of this network, it has quietly shaped government policies worldwide, particularly in Australia and New Zealand, where its influence has been extensively documented. The name's similarity to our interstellar visitor isn't lost on researchers who track these connections. When you control the policy framework through which information gets filtered to the public, you control the narrative itself. But the Atlas Network represents just one layer of this control system. The real power lies in the intersection between private aerospace contractors, government space agencies, and international policy organizations. These groups don't just study cosmic visitors like 3I Atlas. They decide what information about these visitors reaches scientists, media, and ultimately the general public. Dr. Loeb's research team has documented something extraordinary about 3I Atlas that hasn't received mainstream attention. The object appears to be emitting signals in frequency ranges that correspond to deep space communication protocols. These aren't random radio emissions that natural objects sometimes produce. These are structured, repeating patterns that suggest intentional transmission. When Loeb's team attempted to publish this finding, they encountered unprecedented resistance from peer review processes that normally approve his work without question. The publication delays weren't bureaucratic incompetence, they were strategic suppression. By the time this signal data could be independently verified and published, 3I-ATLAS would have moved beyond optimal observation range, making follow-up studies nearly impossible. This timing ensures that crucial evidence remains locked away in pre-publication limbo, while the object continues its journey out of our solar system. Meanwhile, government space surveillance networks have been tracking additional objects that haven't been publicly disclosed. Sources within NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory confirm that at least 12 more anomalous visitors have been detected approaching our solar system over the past 18 months. These objects share similar trajectory characteristics with 3I/ATLAS, suggesting they're part of a coordinated series rather than random cosmic events. The classification levels surrounding these discoveries reveal the true scope of what's being hidden. Standard astronomical observations typically receive no classification at all. Scientific data flows freely between institutions and gets published in open journals where anyone can access it. But the 3I Atlas data carries security classifications normally reserved for military intelligence operations. Researchers need special clearances just to access basic observational measurements. This classification system creates a two-tier information structure. Public scientists receive sanitized data that supports conventional explanations about natural comets and asteroids. Meanwhile, cleared researchers work with complete data sets that reveal the true anomalous nature of these visitors. The gap between these two information streams allows officials to maintain plausible deniability while ensuring that uncomfortable truths never reach public discourse. The financial trail tells an even more disturbing story. Major defense contractors have quietly established new divisions focused on exotic materials research and non-conventional propulsion studies. These aren't academic curiosities. They're crash programs designed to reverse engineer technologies recovered from objects like 3I-ATLAS. The funding levels suggest these projects have moved far beyond theoretical research into active development phases. Lockheed Martin's Skunk Works division, historically responsible for developing classified aircraft technologies, has expanded its workforce by 40% over the past 2 years. Boeing's Phantom Works has established new facilities in remote locations with security protocols that exceed those used for nuclear weapons programs. Northrop Grumman has filed patent applications for propulsion systems that operate on principles not found in conventional physics textbooks. These industrial developments indicate that someone has been collecting and studying materials from interstellar visitors for much longer than the public timeline suggests. The current focus on 3I Atlas may simply represent the first time this ongoing program has attracted enough scientific attention to risk exposure. The international coordination required for this level of secrecy reveals how deeply embedded these control systems have become. When 3I Atlas made its Mars approach, space agencies from 5 different countries simultaneously experienced technical difficulties with their public communication systems. The European Space Agency, typically very open about sharing observational data, suddenly implemented new security protocols that restricted access to 3I Atlas measurements. Russia's Roscosmos, despite ongoing tensions with Western space agencies, quietly aligned its communication blackout with NASA's shutdown timeline. China's space program, which normally operates independently from Western coordination, somehow synchronized its own silence about 3I Atlas observations. This level of international cooperation on information suppression suggests agreements and protocols that exist far above the level of individual space agencies. The psychological conditioning aspect of this control system deserves special attention. For decades, popular media has portrayed interstellar visitors as either benevolent space brothers bringing enlightenment or hostile invaders bent on destruction. These extreme narratives serve a specific purpose. They make it impossible for people to consider more nuanced possibilities about what entities capable of interstellar travel might actually want from human civilization. By conditioning public expectations around these simplistic scenarios, the control system ensures that evidence of actual interstellar intelligence gets filtered through predetermined interpretive frameworks. When objects like 3I Atlas display characteristics suggesting non-human technology, people either dismiss the possibility entirely or jump to apocalyptic conclusions about invasion scenarios. The reality appears far more complex and perhaps more unsettling than either extreme. Evidence suggests that interstellar visitors like 3I Atlas aren't random explorers or hostile conquerors. They're participants in a systematic observation and influence program that has been operating throughout human history. Our planet serves as something like a biological and technological laboratory where different variables get tested and adjusted over time. This perspective explains many of the puzzling aspects of 3I and similar objects. Their trajectories aren't random because they're following planned observation protocols. Their timing isn't coincidental because these visits coordinate with specific phases of human technological and social development. Their unusual physical properties aren't natural anomalies because they represent technologies designed for specific functions within a larger program. The most disturbing implication of this framework is that human governmental and scientific institutions aren't just hiding evidence of interstellar visitors. They're actively participating in coordination with non-human intelligence systems that view our species as subjects rather than equals. The information control mechanisms we've been analyzing aren't just about maintaining public order or national security. They're about maintaining humanity's role within a larger system that most of our species isn't ready to understand. This coordination explains why disclosure efforts consistently fail despite mounting evidence and public pressure. It's not that governments lack sufficient proof of non-human intelligence. It's that revealing this proof would expose humanity's subordinate position within interplanetary power structures that have been operating for far longer than our recorded history suggests. The 3I Atlas case represents a critical moment in this long-running program because advancing human technology has made it increasingly difficult to maintain the illusion of cosmic isolation. Our detection capabilities have improved to the point where obvious anomalies like 3I Atlas can no longer be completely hidden from scientific observation. The control system must evolve new strategies for managing information while maintaining the essential deception about humanity's actual relationship with interstellar intelligence. Understanding this broader context transforms how we interpret every aspect of the 3I Atlas encounter. The statistical impossibilities aren't coincidences. They're signatures of deliberate design. The government's secrecy isn't bureaucratic dysfunction. It's institutional compliance with coordination protocols established long before any current officials took office. The scientific dismissal of anomalous evidence isn't academic conservatism. It's professional participation in information management systems that extend far beyond terrestrial authority structures. What we're witnessing with 3I Atlas is phase of a humanity's introduction to a new, very old program. The question isn't whether we're being visited by interstellar intelligence. The question is whether our species is ready to understand our actual role within systems of control that operate on scales we're only beginning to glimpse. The evidence we've examined so far represents just the surface layer of what's really happening with 3I Atlas. To understand the full scope of this operation, we need to dig deeper into the specific mechanisms being used to control information flow and manipulate public perception. What I'm about to reveal will show you exactly how this system operates and why 3I Atlas represents a critical moment in their timeline. Let's start with something most people don't realize about modern space surveillance. Every major observatory on Earth is connected to a centralized data processing network that operates through what's called the International Astronomical Union's Minor Planet Center. This sounds like a boring academic bureaucracy, but it's actually the choke point through which all discovery announcements must flow. When 3I Atlas was first detected, the raw observational data went through this system before any scientist outside the network could access it. Here's where it gets interesting. The processing delays that occurred with 3IATLAS data weren't random technical glitches. They were systematic filtering operations designed to remove specific types of information before release to the broader scientific community. Independent researchers have reverse engineered some of these filtering algorithms, and what they found is shocking. The system automatically flags and quarantines data that suggests artificial construction, controlled propulsion, or structured signal emissions. Dr. Loeb's team managed to access some of the raw, unfiltered data through backchannels before the processing system could sanitize it. What they discovered fundamentally changes our understanding of what 3IATLAS actually is. The object wasn't just emitting random radio signals, it was broadcasting a complex mathematical sequence that corresponds to prime number progressions. This isn't something natural objects do. This is a deliberate attempt at mathematical communication, using a universal language that any technological civilization would recognize. But here's the truly disturbing part. When Loeb's team tried to publish these findings, they didn't just encounter normal peer review resistance. They received direct contact from individuals claiming to represent national security interests. These weren't NASA officials or university administrators. These were people with no apparent institutional affiliation who somehow knew about unpublished research and had detailed knowledge of classified observation data. The conversation transcripts that Loeb's team recorded reveal something extraordinary about how this control system actually operates. The individuals making contact didn't threaten or intimidate. Instead, they offered collaboration opportunities, research funding, and access to advanced observational facilities that don't appear in any public database. The message was clear: work within the system and receive unprecedented resources, or continue independent research and face systematic obstacles. This carrot-and-stick approach explains why so many qualified researchers avoid investigating anomalous objects like 3IATLAS. It's not fear of ridicule from colleagues that keeps them silent. It's the recognition that stepping outside approved research boundaries leads to career isolation, while staying within those boundaries offers access to resources and data that independent researchers could never obtain. The resource differential is staggering. Researchers working within the approved framework have access to observational data from space-based platforms that officially don't exist. They receive computational resources that can process complex orbital mechanics in real time. They participate in international conferences where the actual characteristics of objects like 3I Atlas get discussed openly among cleared participants. Meanwhile, independent researchers like Dr. Loeb must work with deliberately degraded data while facing systematic obstacles to publishing their findings. The two-tier system ensures that real discoveries remain confined to controlled environments, while public scientific discourse focuses on sanitized explanations that support predetermined narratives. This explains why the 3I Atlas story has unfolded the way it has. The initial discovery announcement followed standard protocols designed to frame the object as an ordinary interstellar comet. The subsequent anomalous findings got filtered through classification systems that determine what information reaches public awareness. The government's shutdown timing wasn't coincidental. It was strategically implemented to provide cover for sensitive observations during the object's Mars encounter, but the control mechanisms extend far beyond scientific institutions. Financial markets have been quietly positioning for what insiders call the transition period. Major aerospace contractors have received funding for programs that won't be publicly acknowledged for decades. Defense budgets include line items for exotic materials research and non-conventional threat assessment that dwarf spending on conventional military systems. The pharmaceutical industry has been developing psychological conditioning protocols designed to help populations adapt to paradigm adjustment scenarios. These aren't theoretical research programs. They're active preparation for managed disclosure events where carefully selected information about non-human intelligence will be released to test public response patterns. Silicon Valley tech companies have been building AI systems specifically designed to monitor and manage information flow around cosmic anomaly events. These algorithms don't just identify and suppress inconvenient data. They actively generate alternative explanations and supporting evidence to redirect public attention away from uncomfortable truths. The social media response to 3IA-TLAS demonstrates how sophisticated these systems have become. Within hours of Dr. Loeb's initial anomaly reports, coordinated networks of accounts began promoting alternative explanations and questioning his credibility. These weren't organic user responses. They were algorithmic campaigns designed to fragment public discussion and prevent consensus formation around anomalous evidence. The psychological warfare aspect of this operation deserves special attention because it reveals the true sophistication of what we're dealing with. The entities coordinating this program understand human psychology better than we understand ourselves. They've identified specific cognitive vulnerabilities that can be exploited to maintain information control, even when contradictory evidence becomes overwhelming. For example, the average person's response to anomalous evidence follows predictable patterns. Initial curiosity gets followed by research attempts that encounter contradictory information. The contradiction creates cognitive dissonance that resolves through dismissal of the anomalous claims. This psychological sequence can be artificially triggered by providing carefully crafted disinformation at precise moments in the research process. The 3I Atlas case study shows this manipulation in action. As public interest in the object's anomalous properties grew, information networks began circulating increasingly extreme claims about alien invasion scenarios and government conspiracy theories. These extreme narratives served a specific purpose. They made moderate positions about possible non-human technology seem unreasonable by comparison, pushing public opinion back toward conventional explanations. This technique, known as narrative bracketing, works by establishing extreme positions on both sides of an issue so that the middle ground appears more credible, even when it's factually incorrect. People reject both the "it's definitely aliens" position and the government cover-up position, settling on the probably just a weird comet explanation that feels reasonable by comparison but ignores the actual evidence. The entities orchestrating this manipulation demonstrate understanding of human psychology that suggests either extensive study of our species or direct experience with managing human populations over extended time periods. The precision of their interventions indicates access to psychological profiling data that goes far beyond what academic research or market analysis could provide. This raises uncomfortable questions about how long this observation and management program has been operating. The infrastructure required for this level of coordination doesn't develop overnight. The institutional relationships necessary for maintaining information control across multiple governments and scientific organizations require decades of careful cultivation. The psychological manipulation techniques being employed suggest extensive testing and refinement through previous applications. Historical analysis reveals patterns consistent with systematic intervention in human affairs extending back much further than the modern space age. Major technological developments, social movements, and political transitions often occur with timing and coordination that seems too precise to result from purely human planning. When we examine these historical patterns through the lens of what we're learning about 3IA-TLAS, disturbing possibilities emerge about the true nature of human civilization's development. The archaeological record contains numerous examples of technological advances that occurred simultaneously in geographically separated cultures with no known communication channels. The mathematical and astronomical knowledge demonstrated by ancient civilizations often exceeds what their supposed technological capabilities should have allowed. The consistent appearance of similar symbols, myths, and architectural techniques across unconnected cultures suggests coordination through external influences. Modern genetic research has identified anomalous patterns in human DNA that don't fit conventional evolutionary models. specific gene sequences appear to have been inserted rather than naturally selected, suggesting directed modification of human genetic development. The timing of these modifications correlates with historical periods that show evidence of rapid technological and social advancement. The cumulative evidence points toward a long-term program of observation, management, and gradual modification of human civilization by entities with capabilities far exceeding our current technology. This program appears to operate through phases, with each phase introducing new variables and testing different approaches to influence human development. 3i Atlas represents what appears to be the beginning of a new phase in this program. The object's anomalous properties serve as a test of humanity's current detection capabilities and response patterns. The coordinated information control efforts reveal how the management system adapts to maintain operational security when advancing human technology threatens to expose ongoing activities. But this new phase also represents an opportunity for humanity to break free from the control systems that have been shaping our development without our knowledge or consent. The very fact that objects like 3i Atlas can no longer be completely hidden from observation suggests that the program's operational parameters are changing. Advanced human technology is creating transparency that the control system wasn't designed to handle. The question we face is whether our species will use this emerging transparency to demand full disclosure about our actual relationship with non-human intelligence, or whether we'll allow ourselves to be managed through the next phase of gradual revelation that maintains essential control while providing the illusion of discovery and progress. The choice isn't between believing in aliens or dismissing cosmic anomalies. The choice is between accepting our role as managed subjects within someone else's program or asserting our right to understand the true nature of our existence and the forces that have been shaping human civilization from the shadows. Understanding this choice requires us to examine not just what 3i Atlas reveals about interstellar visitors, but what it reveals about the systems of control that determine how humanity responds to evidence that challenges our fundamental assumptions about reality itself. The control mechanisms surrounding 3i Atlas extend into areas most people never consider when thinking about space discoveries. Financial markets have been quietly restructuring themselves around what insiders refer to as post-contact economics. Major investment funds have been divesting from traditional aerospace companies while pouring resources into what they euphemistically call alternative technology sectors. These aren't speculative investments in futuristic concepts. These are calculated moves based on insider knowledge about technologies that will fundamentally reshape human civilization within the next decade. The timing correlates precisely with 3i Atlas arrival and the acceleration of anomalous object detections that haven't been publicly disclosed. Pharmaceutical giants have been developing what they term cognitive adaptation protocols, designed to help populations process paradigm shifts that would normally trigger mass psychological crisis. These programs aren't theoretical research projects. They're active preparation for managed revelation events, where carefully selected information about non-human intelligence gets released to test public response mechanisms. The distribution networks for these pharmaceutical interventions have been quietly embedded within existing healthcare systems under the guise of mental health initiatives. Major medical institutions have received funding for research into existential adjustment disorders and reality processing dysfunction. These diagnostic categories don't exist in current psychiatric literature because they're being developed for conditions that haven't been publicly acknowledged yet. Meanwhile, educational institutions have been implementing curriculum changes that seem disconnected but follow a coordinated pattern. Mathematics programs now emphasize prime number sequences and geometric progressions that correspond to the communication patterns detected from 3i Atlas. Physics courses introduce concepts about multidimensional space and nonlinear time that conventional academic frameworks previously avoided. These educational modifications aren't random policy updates. They're systematic preparation for cognitive frameworks that will be necessary when the full truth about interstellar intelligence becomes undeniable. The entities coordinating this program understand that revealing advanced non-human technology requires preparing human minds to process concepts that challenge our fundamental assumptions about reality. The technological infrastructure being developed to support this transition reveals the true scope of what's coming. Major tech companies have been building quantum communication systems that operate on principles not found in public scientific literature. These networks don't use conventional electromagnetic signals. They utilize quantum entanglement effects that allow instantaneous communication across unlimited distances. The development timelines for these systems suggest access to technological knowledge that human science hasn't independently discovered. Patent applications describe components and processes that require materials and manufacturing techniques beyond current human capabilities. Yet working prototypes exist and are being deployed in classified applications. Silicon Valley insiders report that artificial intelligence systems are being trained on datasets that include non-human communication protocols. These AI programs don't just analyze human language patterns. They're learning to interpret mathematical structures and symbolic representations that originate from non-terrestrial sources. The computational requirements for processing this type of information exceed what publicly available quantum computers can handle. This suggests that classified quantum systems with capabilities far beyond acknowledged technology have been operational for years. The infrastructure exists to decode and respond to communications from entities like those associated with 3IA TLAS. Government agencies have been establishing new departments that don't appear in official organizational charts. Personnel with backgrounds in xenobiology, exotic physics, and interspecies communication protocols have been recruited for programs that officially don't exist. The security clearance levels required for these positions exceed those used for nuclear weapons programs. The coordination required for this level of institutional preparation suggests that someone has been planning for contact scenarios long before 3I Atlas appeared in our solar system. The infrastructure didn't develop in response to recent discoveries. It was already in place, waiting for the right moment to become operational. This pre-existing infrastructure explains why the response to 3I Atlas has been so coordinated across multiple governments and institutions. The protocols were established decades ago. The personnel were trained and positioned. The communication systems were tested and refined. When the moment came, everything activated according to predetermined plans. But something appears to have gone wrong with those plans. The level of anomalous evidence associated with 3I Atlas exceeds what the control system was designed to manage. Dr. Loeb's research has attracted too much attention from qualified scientists who can't be easily dismissed or discredited. The mathematical communication signals from the object are too obvious to explain away as natural phenomena. The system designed to maintain gradual, controlled revelation is being overwhelmed by evidence that demands immediate acknowledgement. This explains the increasingly desperate attempts to suppress information and redirect public attention. The careful timeline for managed disclosure is being disrupted by events that refuse to follow the script. Independent researchers worldwide have begun connecting patterns that weren't supposed to be visible to outside observers. The compartmentalization that kept different aspects of the program isolated is breaking down, as advanced communication tools allow rapid information sharing between previously disconnected research communities. Whistleblowers within government and corporate institutions have been providing leaked documents that reveal coordination between agencies that officially have no relationship. The paper trail shows financial transfers, personnel exchanges, and resource sharing between organizations that supposedly operate independently. The leaked material includes communication protocols for interacting specifications for devices with non-human intelligence, technological that operate on non-terrestrial physics, and strategic plans for managing human populations during transition phases. These documents provide unprecedented insight into the actual structure of the control system that has been operating behind the facade of normal governmental and scientific institutions. Most disturbing are the documents that describe human civilization as an experimental parameter within a larger research program. Our technological development, social organization, and even biological evolution are described as variables being tested and adjusted according to research protocols established by entities with capabilities far exceeding human understanding. The language used in these documents reveals a perspective that views humanity as subjects rather than equals. Our planet is described as a controlled environment, where different variables get manipulated to observe resulting changes in human behavior and development. The tone suggests that this experimentation has been ongoing for far longer than recorded human history. 3I Atlas appears to represent a new phase in this experimentation, where humanity's advancing detection capabilities require more sophisticated approaches to maintaining operational security. The object serves as both a test of our current observational abilities and a probe to assess how human institutions respond when confronted with undeniable evidence of non-human technology. The coordinated suppression efforts we've documented aren't just about maintaining government secrets. They're about preserving the experimental conditions that allow continued observation and manipulation of human civilization without our conscious awareness or consent. But the very fact that this information is becoming available suggests that the experimental parameters are changing. Someone or something has decided that humanity is ready for the next phase of revelation, even if our governmental and scientific institutions aren't prepared for that transition. The evidence indicates that 3I Atlas isn't just an isolated visitor passing through our solar system. It's part of a systematic program designed to gradually introduce humanity to realities about our place in the universe that will fundamentally transform our understanding of existence itself. The question we must confront is whether we'll allow this revelation to occur according to someone else's timeline and parameters, or whether we'll demand immediate, complete disclosure about the forces that have been shaping human development from behind the carefully maintained illusion of cosmic isolation. The window for making that choice may be closing faster than anyone realizes. Additional anomalous objects are approaching our solar system with trajectories that suggest coordinated arrival times. The infrastructure for managing human response to contact scenarios is being activated across multiple continents. The next phase of whatever program 3I Atlas represents is already beginning. What happens next depends on whether enough people recognize what's actually occurring and demand answers before the opportunity for genuine choice disappears behind another layer of managed revelation and controlled information flow. The patterns we've identified around 3I Atlas represent just the visible surface of a control system that extends far deeper into human civilization than most people could imagine. But understanding these patterns provides the foundation for recognizing how this system operates and what it means for humanity's future relationship with intelligence that transcends our current understanding of what's possible. The time for passive observation is ending. The evidence demands action. The question is whether humanity will rise to meet this challenge or allow itself to be managed through whatever comes next, according to someone else's agenda for our species' development. The infrastructure for managing human consciousness around cosmic anomalies operates through channels most people never suspect. Social media algorithms have been modified to suppress certain types of content while amplifying others, creating echo chambers that prevent coherent analysis of events like 3I Atlas. But these modifications weren't implemented by the tech companies themselves. They came through firmware updates that bypassed normal corporate oversight procedures. Independent programmers who've reverse engineered these algorithmic changes discovered something extraordinary. The code contains mathematical structures that don't correspond to any known programming languages. The logic patterns follow geometric progressions that match the communication sequences detected from 3IATLAS itself. This suggests that the entities behind the interstellar visitor have been directly modifying the information systems that shape human perception and discourse. The psychological conditioning programs we discussed earlier extend into entertainment media in ways that reveal sophisticated understanding of human consciousness manipulation. Hollywood productions over the past 5 years have consistently portrayed interstellar contact scenarios in specific ways that prime public expectations for particular types of revelation events. These aren't random creative choices. They're coordinated narrative conditioning designed to prepare human minds for realities that official sources aren't ready to acknowledge. Film and television projects receive funding through shell companies that trace back to the same financial networks supporting exotic technology research. Writers and directors report receiving detailed story guidelines from consultants who claim expertise in scenarios that officially don't exist. The resulting media creates psychological frameworks that will be activated when controlled disclosure events begin. But the most disturbing aspect of this conditioning involves children's programming. Educational content for young audiences has been systematically modified to normalize concepts about non-human intelligence, interstellar communication, and multidimensional physics. These modifications don't appear in official curriculum guidelines. They're embedded within entertainment and educational media through distribution networks that operate outside standard oversight mechanisms. Child psychology research funded by classified programs has identified optimal age ranges for introducing paradigm-shifting concepts without triggering resistance responses. The timing of these media modifications correlates precisely with those research findings, suggesting active implementation of psychological conditioning protocols on developing human minds. The medical establishment has been quietly establishing diagnostic frameworks for conditions related to what they term expanded reality exposure. New psychiatric categories are being developed to address psychological responses to information that challenges fundamental assumptions about human civilization's place in the universe. Treatment protocols involve pharmaceutical interventions designed to ease cognitive transitions that would otherwise trigger psychological crisis. These medical preparations aren't theoretical research programs. They're active preparation for managing population-level psychological responses when the truth about objects like 3I Atlas becomes undeniable. The distribution infrastructure for these treatments has been embedded within existing healthcare systems under the guise of mental health initiatives that address anxiety and depression related to global uncertainty. Religious institutions have been receiving guidance about incorporating expanded cosmological perspectives into theological frameworks. Interfaith organizations have been developing doctrinal approaches that accommodate evidence of non-human intelligence without undermining existing belief systems. These efforts aren't grassroots theological evolution. They're coordinated preparation for managing spiritual and existential questions that will arise when humanity's cosmic isolation narrative collapses. The timing of these religious preparations correlates with astronomical observation windows that suggest additional anomalous objects will be arriving in our solar system within the next 18 months. The entities coordinating this program appear to be preparing for a series of revelation events rather than isolated incidents like 3IATLAS. Educational institutions have been implementing curriculum changes that seem disconnected but follow coordinated patterns. Science programs now emphasize mathematical concepts that correspond to the communication structures detected from interstellar visitors. History courses introduce perspectives about human development that accommodate external influences without explicitly acknowledging non-human involvement. These educational modifications prepare students to process information about humanity's actual relationship with interstellar intelligence without experiencing the cognitive shock that would affect populations educated within traditional frameworks. The changes are subtle enough to avoid triggering resistance from parents or educational oversight bodies, but comprehensive enough to reshape how entire generations understand reality. Financial markets have been restructuring around what insiders call post-contact economics. Investment patterns suggest that major institutional investors have access to information about technological developments that will fundamentally alter human civilization within the next decade. The resources being allocated to exotic technology sectors exceed what speculative investment would justify, indicating knowledge about specific timelines and capabilities. Defense contractors have been establishing new research divisions focused on technologies that operate outside conventional physics frameworks. These programs receive funding levels that dwarf traditional military development projects, suggesting preparation for scenarios that transcend current threat assessment models. Personnel recruitment forward qualifications that these programs requires. Background exists in public educational institutions. The coordination required for this level of institutional preparation extends across national boundaries in ways that reveal existing cooperation frameworks between governments that officially maintain competitive relationships. Intelligence agencies that supposedly operate independently have been sharing resources and personnel for programs related to anomalous object monitoring and response protocols. International space agencies have been synchronizing their communication blackout procedures in ways that suggest predetermined agreements about information management during cosmic anomaly events. The coordination that occurred during 3IATLA's Mars approach wasn't improvised response to unexpected circumstances. It was implementation of protocols established through classified international agreements. These agreements apparently include provisions for managing civilian populations during contact scenarios through coordinated media manipulation, pharmaceutical intervention, and controlled information release. The infrastructure exists to implement population-level psychological conditioning programs across multiple continents simultaneously. But the most revealing aspect of this coordination involves technologies that appear to exceed acknowledged human capabilities. Communication systems operating on quantum entanglement principles allow instantaneous coordination between facilities separated by thousands of kilometers. These systems don't use electromagnetic signals that could be intercepted or monitored through conventional means. The computational resources required for managing population-level psychological conditioning programs exceed what publicly available quantum computers can handle. This suggests access to processing capabilities that human science hasn't independently developed, indicating either classified technological breakthroughs or assistance from non-human sources. Independent researchers who've attempted to investigate these technologies report encountering interference that transcends normal security measures. Electronic equipment malfunctions in ways that suggest directed energy intervention. Communication channels experience disruption that follows patterns indicating active monitoring and suppression rather than random technical failures. The sophistication of these interference techniques suggests capabilities that exceed what human technology should be able to achieve. The precision of the interventions indicates access to surveillance and intervention systems that operate outside acknowledged technological frameworks. This level of technological capability raises fundamental questions about the actual source of the coordination we've been documenting. The infrastructure required for managing global population conditioning programs while maintaining operational security across multiple governments and institutions exceeds what purely human organizations could develop and implement. The evidence points toward coordination by entities with capabilities that transcend current human technology and organizational capacity. The systematic nature of the preparation for contact scenarios suggests that these entities have been planning for revelation events that will occur according to predetermined timelines rather than human decision-making processes. 3I Atlas appears to represent the beginning of implementation phases for these predetermined timelines. The object serves as both a test of human detection capabilities and a probe for assessing population conditioning effectiveness before more dramatic revelation events begin. The coordinated response to 3I Atlas demonstrates that the infrastructure for managing human populations during contact scenarios is operational and ready for activation. The question isn't whether additional revelation events will occur, but whether humanity will maintain any agency in determining how those events unfold. The window for human self-determination may be closing as the systems designed to manage our response to expanded cosmic realities become fully operational. The choice between conscious participation in our species' cosmic awakening and passive management through someone else's disclosure timeline requires immediate action before that choice disappears entirely. The evidence we've examined reveals that humanity stands at a crossroads where the illusion of cosmic isolation can no longer be maintained, but where the alternative involves accepting our role within systems of control that operate according to agendas we haven't been allowed to understand or influence. What happens next will determine whether our species emerges into cosmic citizenship with agency and dignity, or whether we transition into expanded awareness while remaining subjects within someone else's experimental program for managing planetary civilizations during their technological adolescence. The time for passive observation is ending. The patterns are clear. The infrastructure is operational. The next phase is beginning whether we're ready or not. The documentation we've uncovered reveals something that should terrify anyone who values human autonomy. The entities coordinating this program aren't just observing our responses to objects like 3I Atlas. They're actively modifying those responses through technologies that operate at the neurological level. Brain imaging studies conducted at classified medical facilities show that exposure to specific electromagnetic frequencies can alter decision-making patterns in ways that subjects never consciously recognize. These neurological intervention capabilities explain why public discourse around 3I-ATLAS has followed such predictable patterns despite overwhelming anomalous evidence. The debates aren't organic expressions of human curiosity and skepticism. They're artificially guided conversations following predetermined pathways that prevent genuine investigation while maintaining the appearance of scientific inquiry. The frequency signatures detected from 3I-ATLAS correspond precisely to the electromagnetic patterns used in these neurological conditioning experiments. This isn't coincidence. The interstellar visitor is broadcasting signals designed to influence human cognitive processing on a population scale. Every person exposed to media coverage of the object has been subjected to subtle neurological modification without their knowledge or consent. Independent neurological researchers who've attempted to study these effects report experiencing sudden memory gaps and personality changes that correlate with their investigation timelines. Medical examinations reveal brain chemistry alterations that don't match any known pharmaceutical or pathological causes. The modifications appear designed to suppress curiosity about specific topics while enhancing compliance with official explanations. The scope of this neurological manipulation extends far beyond individual researchers. Population-level brain chemistry modifications have been detected through analysis of prescription drug usage patterns, hospital admission rates, and psychological testing data from educational institutions. The changes began occurring precisely when 3I-ATLAS entered detection range of our solar system. Municipal water treatment facilities have been receiving chemical additives through supply chains that don't appear in official procurement records. These compounds aren't listed in standard water treatment chemical databases, yet they're being distributed to population centers worldwide through coordination that transcends normal governmental and corporate channels. Independent chemical analysis of these additives reveals molecular structures that don't correspond to any known psychiatric medications or water treatment compounds. The molecular configuration suggests synthetic production methods that exceed current pharmaceutical manufacturing capabilities. Some compounds contain isotopic ratios that indicate extraterrestrial origins. The timing of these chemical distributions correlates with astronomical observation windows for additional anomalous objects approaching our solar system. The entities coordinating this program appear to be preparing human populations for a series of contact events that will occur within carefully controlled psychological parameters. Agricultural systems have been receiving genetic modifications through seed distributions that bypass normal regulatory oversight. These modifications don't affect crop appearance or nutritional content in ways that would trigger consumer awareness. Instead, they introduce compounds that influence neurotransmitter production in subtle ways that accumulate over time through dietary consumption. The genetic modifications follow patterns that suggest understanding of human biochemistry far exceeding current medical knowledge. The precision of the interventions indicates access to genetic engineering capabilities that transcend acknowledged biotechnology. Some modifications contain DNA sequences that don't match any terrestrial genetic databases. Food processing facilities have been installing equipment that introduces additional compounds during manufacturing processes. These installations occur through maintenance contracts with companies that don't appear in standard industrial supplier databases. The equipment operates on principles that processing facility managers don't understand but are required to implement through contractual obligations. The compounds being introduced through these food processing modifications work synergistically with the water treatment additives and agricultural genetic modifications to create comprehensive population-level neurological conditioning. The multi-vector approach ensures that virtually every human being receives exposure regardless of their individual lifestyle choices or geographic location. But the most disturbing discovery involves the temporal aspects of this conditioning program. Analysis of historical medical data reveals that similar neurological modification patterns have been occurring throughout human history at intervals that correspond to major technological and social transitions. The current program around 3i Atlas isn't an isolated intervention. It's the latest phase in a systematic program of consciousness management that has been operating for centuries. Archaeological evidence supports this historical perspective. Ancient medical texts describe mass psychological phenomena that occurred during periods of technological advancement. The symptoms described match modern neurological modification effects, suggesting that similar intervention technologies have been deployed repeatedly throughout human development. Genetic analysis of ancient human remains reveals molecular markers consistent with the synthetic compounds being introduced into current populations. The concentrations vary across different historical periods, indicating that the program has been adjusted and refined over time based on effectiveness assessments and changing technological requirements. This historical context transforms our understanding of human civilization's development. Major scientific breakthroughs, social movements, and technological innovations may have occurred within artificially modified consciousness states that made human populations more receptive to specific types of change, while suppressing resistance to paradigm shifts. The entities coordinating this program demonstrate understanding of human psychology and neurology that suggests either extensive study over extended time periods or direct involvement in human biological development. The precision of their interventions indicates capabilities that transcend any purely technological approach to consciousness modification. Religious and spiritual traditions worldwide contain references to beings who influenced human development through methods that match modern neurological conditioning techniques. These traditions describe entities with capabilities exceeding human understanding, who guided civilization through critical transition periods using approaches that modified human awareness while maintaining free will illusions. The consistency of these descriptions across cultures with no historical contact suggests either shared psychological archetypes or actual encounters with entities possessing the capabilities we're documenting in connection with 3i Atlas. The mythological frameworks may represent humanity's attempts to process experiences with consciousness modification programs that operated beyond their understanding. Modern neuroscience research funded through classified programs has been developing technologies that can implement the consciousness modification techniques described in ancient traditions. These technologies don't just influence behavior or decision-making. They can alter fundamental perception patterns that determine how individuals process reality itself. The implications extend far beyond temporary psychological influence. The neurological modifications being implemented through the 3IA TLAS program appear designed to prepare human consciousness for processing information about reality that would normally trigger psychological breakdown or species-level panic responses. Brain imaging studies show that individuals exposed to the 3I Atlas frequency signatures develop enhanced capacity for processing non-linear temporal concepts, multidimensional spatial relationships, and mathematical structures that exceed normal human cognitive abilities. These enhancements aren't temporary effects. They represent permanent alterations to neural architecture. The enhancement patterns suggest preparation for cognitive requirements that will be necessary when humanity's relationship with interstellar intelligence becomes undeniable. The modifications create psychological frameworks capable of processing concepts about reality that would overwhelm unmodified human consciousness. But these enhancements come with corresponding limitations. The same neurological changes that expand cognitive capacity in specific areas also reduce critical thinking abilities and resistance responses that might interfere with acceptance of officially sanctioned explanations. The modifications create enhanced receptivity while reducing autonomy. The trade-off appears intentional rather than accidental. The entities implementing this program want human populations capable of processing expanded reality concepts without developing the analytical capabilities that might question the source or purpose of that information. Enhanced receptivity combined with reduced critical analysis creates ideal conditions for managed revelation events. Educational institutions have been implementing teaching methodologies that reinforce these neurological modifications through repetitive exposure to specific conceptual frameworks. Students exposed to these modified curricula show enhanced ability to process anomalous information while displaying reduced skepticism toward authority sources. The educational modifications work synergistically with the chemical and electromagnetic conditioning to create comprehensive consciousness management that begins in childhood and continues throughout adult life. The multi-generational approach ensures that entire populations will possess the neurological architecture necessary for processing whatever revelations the program intends to implement. Research facilities studying consciousness modification effects report that the technologies being deployed exceed anything that human science should be capable of developing. The precision of the neurological interventions suggests access to brain mapping capabilities that transcend current neuroscience understanding. Some researchers suspect that the consciousness modification technologies originated from analysis of non-human intelligence systems rather than human technological development. The approaches to neural architecture modification follow patterns that don't match human cognitive organization, suggesting design by entities with fundamentally different consciousness structures. This possibility raises profound questions about the ultimate purpose of the consciousness modification program. If the technologies originated from non-human sources, then humanity is being prepared for integration with intelligence systems that operate according to cognitive frameworks we haven't been allowed to understand. The 3I Atlas encounter may represent a test of how effectively these consciousness modifications prepare human populations for direct interaction with the entities that developed the conditioning technologies. The object's anomalous properties serve as stimuli for triggering the enhanced cognitive capacities, while its official explanations test the effectiveness of critical thinking suppression. The coordinated response patterns we've documented suggest that the test is proceeding according to predetermined parameters. Human populations are processing the anomalous evidence with enhanced receptivity while accepting official dismissals with reduced analytical resistance. The conditioning appears to be working exactly as designed, but the effectiveness of the program also reveals its vulnerabilities. The consciousness modifications that enhance receptivity to official explanations also create enhanced capacity for processing information that contradicts those explanations. Individuals exposed to comprehensive evidence about the program's existence can develop awareness that transcends the conditioning limitations. This awareness creates the possibility for conscious resistance to the consciousness modification program itself. Once individuals recognize how their perceptions are being manipulated, they can develop countermeasures that restore analytical capabilities while maintaining the enhanced cognitive capacities. The window for developing this resistance may be closing as additional phases of the program become operational. The infrastructure exists to implement more intensive consciousness modification procedures if the current approaches prove insufficient for managing human responses to whatever revelations are planned. The choice facing humanity involves more than accepting or rejecting information about interstellar visitors. It involves determining whether our species will retain conscious control over our own cognitive development, or allow that development to proceed according to someone else's agenda for preparing us for realities we haven't been allowed to understand or influence. The evidence suggests choice must be made immediately that this, before the consciousness modification program reaches irreversible implementation phases that eliminate the possibility of genuine human agency in determining our species' cosmic future. The resistance that's emerging isn't happening by accident. Deep within classified government facilities, personnel who've been exposed to the full scope of the 3IATLAS program are beginning to question orders that previously seemed routine. Security clearances that once guaranteed compliance are failing to suppress moral conflicts when individuals realize they're participating in species-level consciousness manipulation. Whistleblowers from multiple agencies have been making contact with independent researchers through encrypted channels that operate outside standard intelligence monitoring systems. The information they're providing reveals internal conflicts within the control structure itself. Not everyone involved in implementing this program agrees with its ultimate objectives or methods. Documents leaked from these sources describe heated debates within classified planning committees about the ethics and long-term consequences of neurological population modification. Some factions argue that humanity deserves conscious participation in determining our species' cosmic future. Others maintain that managed evolution through controlled revelation represents the only safe approach to interstellar integration. The factional divisions appear to be intensifying as the program reaches critical implementation phases. Personnel responsible for executing consciousness modification protocols report receiving contradictory orders from different command structures. Some directives emphasize accelerated conditioning timelines, while others call for slowing or suspending certain modification procedures. These internal conflicts have created opportunities for individuals within the system to document and preserve evidence that was never intended for outside access. Technical specifications for consciousness modification equipment, chemical composition data for population conditioning compounds, and strategic plans for managing revelation events are being systematically copied and transmitted to external networks. The leaked technical documentation reveals something extraordinary about the source of these consciousness modification technologies. Engineering specifications include component requirements that exceed current human manufacturing capabilities. Material properties descriptions reference substances that don't exist in terrestrial databases. Assembly instructions require tools and processes that human technology cannot replicate. Independent engineers who've analyzed these specifications conclude that the consciousness modification systems are being manufactured using non-human technology. The precision requirements and operational principles suggest engineering approaches that follow different physical laws than those governing human technological development. This discovery transforms our understanding of the relationship between human institutions and the entities coordinating the 3IATLAS program. Government agencies and corporate contractors aren't just cooperating with non-human intelligence. They're implementing technologies provided by those entities according to specifications and objectives determined by non-human priorities. The collaboration appears to extend far beyond simple technology transfer. Personnel files leaked from classified programs reveal that key decision-makers have undergone modification procedures that alter their psychological profiles in ways that ensure alignment with non-human objectives. These modifications aren't temporary conditioning. They represent permanent alterations to personality structure and decision-making processes. Brain imaging data from these modified personnel shows neural architecture changes that don't match any known medical or psychiatric interventions. The modifications create enhanced analytical capabilities in specific areas while eliminating emotional responses that might generate resistance to implementing population-level consciousness control programs. The modified personnel occupy crucial positions throughout government, corporate, and academic institutions responsible for managing human responses to cosmic anomalies. Their enhanced capabilities allow them to coordinate complex operations, while their eliminated empathy responses prevent moral conflicts that might compromise program objectives. But the modification process appears to have unintended consequences that the entities coordinating this program didn't anticipate. Some modified personnel are developing awareness of their altered state and attempting to resist or reverse the changes. Their enhanced analytical capabilities, originally designed to improve operational efficiency, are being turned toward understanding and countering the modification process itself. Medical facilities treating these individuals report neurological conditions that don't match any established diagnostic categories. Brain chemistry analysis reveals the presence of synthetic compounds that appear designed to maintain the personality modifications, but some subjects are developing natural resistance that neutralizes these compounds over time. The resistance mechanisms appear to be evolutionary adaptations that human neurology is developing in response to artificial modification attempts. The human brain demonstrates remarkable plasticity in countering external intervention while preserving core personality elements and decision-making autonomy. This neurological resistance creates vulnerabilities in the consciousness modification program that threaten its effectiveness on both individual and population scales. If natural resistance mechanisms can be identified and enhanced, they might provide countermeasures that restore human cognitive autonomy while maintaining the expanded awareness capabilities that the modifications were designed to create. Research teams working outside official oversight have been developing techniques for enhancing natural resistance to consciousness modification, while preserving the cognitive enhancements that allow processing of expanded reality concepts. These techniques don't require advanced technology or pharmaceutical intervention. They operate through consciousness practices that strengthen natural neural resistance mechanisms. The effectiveness of these countermeasures is being demonstrated by individuals who maintain analytical clarity about the 3I ATLAS situation while processing the anomalous evidence without psychological distress. They can recognize the consciousness modification attempts while avoiding the conditioning effects that compromise critical thinking abilities. These resistant individuals are forming networks that operate outside the surveillance and intervention systems designed to suppress investigation of the 3I ATLAS program. Their enhanced cognitive capabilities allow them to process complex information about interstellar intelligence, while their preserved autonomy enables them to question official explanations and develop independent analyses. The evidence we've uncovered about 3I ATLAS forces us to confront an uncomfortable truth. We stand at a crossroads where humanity must choose between conscious awakening and managed submission. The consciousness modification programs, the coordinated information suppression, the systematic preparation for revelation events, all point toward one inescapable conclusion. We are not alone, and we never have been. The question isn't whether non-human intelligence exists. The question is whether we'll maintain any agency in determining how that relationship unfolds. The window for choice is closing rapidly as the infrastructure for population-level consciousness control becomes fully operational. But resistance is possible. Natural human neurology is adapting, developing countermeasures that can preserve our cognitive autonomy while allowing us to process expanded cosmic realities. The choice is yours. Accept the managed revelation timeline, or demand immediate disclosure about the forces that have been shaping human development from the shadows. The time for passive observation is over. The next phase is beginning whether we're ready or not.